Now, staying with this story, Parliament is yet to give the green light to the Road Traffic Amendment Bill, giving an update on COVID-19 transport regulations. Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula said he expects draft legislation which will prohibit motorists from consuming any alcohol before driving to be in place by December. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Eugene Herbert, Masterdrive Managing Director. Eugene, thank you so much for your time. Now, Eugene, the legal alcohol limit as it stands for motorists is at 0.05 grams already. What's your take of the 0% suggestion by the Minister?
If I can put it into perspective, the purpose of which I imagine the Minister and any legislation is to change behaviour. Just legislating something to a lower level is not going to ensure that motorists are capable or desirous of adhering to that. And I use the analogy of a speed limit. If a person is going to break the speed limit, irrespective of whether it's 100 or 120, they still break the law, despite the consequences. So imposing a lower limit doesn't necessarily mean that motorists are going to change behaviour. I think it was clearly brought out by the AA in a press release. Legislation will do one thing, but enforcement of that legislation is what is needed. Currently, we have great legislation, and one of our concerns is that when you legislate a lower level such as this, the unintended consequence of somebody under a medical prescription for something that would be suited to addressing a cold or a flu, something like that, could inadvertently be caught and being convicted of something of which they're not guilty. So changing legislation doesn't change people's behavior. Work on how you can change people to see the need to not be morally culpable in the event of them using alcohol is a far better approach.
Now, you speak of changing behaviour. You also speak of enforcement. Now, listen to this. In 2015, South Africa had more drunk driving-related deaths than anywhere else in the world. So what is your suggestion about, firstly, enforcing this 0% limit? How will that be done by government? And also, how do we begin to change behaviour?
Well, if you look at the availability of resources, law enforcement, they are there to ensure that people comply with the law. If you think about what happened during COVID, there was more action taken against people who were breaking COVID restrictions than there were people who were actually breaking the law. Now, when you think about an individual who's going to break the law with regard to drinking, it's something that he knows he will get away with because previous instances show that there's minimal arrests, convictions, and in fact a penalty. I think if I speak anecdotally, less than 10% of the people who get caught for driving under the influence actually land up going to court, and then there's less than 10% of those who actually land up with a conviction. So get your conviction for the present circumstances without changing it. Make sure that everybody buys into the concept. There's great promotional value put out by the liquor companies to ensure responsible drinking and driving, which in principle is don't drink and drive at the same time. Now, if we can appeal to motorists, and what we find in the work that we do, by changing a person's view of how they engage with other motorists and the responsibility that comes with driving, ensures that we have a better outcome.
Now, you've worked on advanced driving for several years and also on how to change behaviour in terms of motorists. You also work in other countries outside of South Africa. How do you think South Africans are faring compared to other countries at the moment?
Interestingly, we've done a poll with our European partners and American partners. We seem to have got to grips with the challenges of invoking training methodologies earlier in the COVID restriction than what other countries have. And I think one of the reasons why we've been successful in doing this is that road safety is paramount to many companies' social programs. It's needed in order to deliver the services that we do by way of goods to market, the newsroom communications, etc. So we've been very proactive in ensuring that there's a high level of interaction with those drivers who need it, because now they're under great pressure. The volume of work has increased significantly for a smaller workforce, and these ones then need the interventions of training in order to ensure that they cope with the challenges. And I may just mention what we've seen in the last while. Motorists who have been under lockdown for 4 months, now 5 months, returning to the roads, their driving behavior is horrific. They've lost all muscle memory. The routes that they used to go through to get to work are now a thing of the past. So people need to be educated with regard to how they engage with other motorists. And if we can influence them in a positive way, one of the mantras that we have is drive nice, it's contagious. Some motorists are doing so, but we encourage all motorists to engage with other motorists in a positive, proactive way, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And yes, even taxi drivers, because then we will get on better with one another on the road.
Eugene, thank you so much for your time. That's where we have to leave it. Eugene Herbert, Masterdrive Managing Director. Thank you so much for that.